third one is by changing what? Changing theta. How can we change theta? Basically theta is the angle between magnetic field and the area vector, right? So by changing the orientation of loop which is placed in the magnetic field, we can change it. See, consider that this is our loop, okay? This is the current carrying loop which is supposed to carry induced current. Right now there is no magnetic field, nothing. Let's make or create magnetic field here. This is north pole, this is south pole. So now this loop is under the influence of a magnetic field, and let us also suppose that this loop is rotating in this direction with angular velocity omega. Guys, do you know the relation between angular velocity and theta? What is velocity? Displacement upon time. What is angular velocity? Angular displacement upon time. What is angular displacement? Theta, the radiance or angle covered in particular time. So d theta upon dt or just theta upon t is the angular velocity omega. That was a very short revision. So we'll start with E is equal to minus d phi upon dt, which is equal to minus d upon dt of, instead of phi I am writing b a cos of theta, okay? Instead of theta I can write omega t. So minus d upon dt b a cos omega t. What are the constants here? B and A are constants. So we are left with induced EMF is minus b a d over dt of, or differentiation of, cos omega t. What is the differentiation of cos? Minus sign or sine? It is minus sign, right? So minus b a into the differentiation of cos theta or cos x. Cos x is minus sin x. If there is cos kx, it is minus sin kx into k. So right now we are having cos omega t, that is minus sin omega t multiplied by the differentiation of constant, which is basically the power rule, so multiplied by omega. So induced EMF is this negative sign and this negative sign, they goes out, b or b a omega sin omega t. This is the final answer, and this is our final answer. If instead of one single loop I am having n number of turns, n number of loops, the answer would be, the induced EMF is getting n times multiplied, so n b a omega sin omega t. This is the expression for induced EMF when there is change in orientation, that is when you change the theta. Alright, now I will continue with the same diagram. So hope you guys have already noted it down, or just pause the video, note it down and see how can this benefit us, this expression. By changing theta, what we can make from this diagram, we can make an AC generator from this. How? This loop is extended like this and like this. Here we have carbon brushes to make constant touch with slip rings. Now this time we are having slip rings, not the split rings. I'll tell you what is the difference between slip and split rings. Like this. We have ring R1 and R2, which is right now the slip rings, which are further connected with changing resistor, that is rheostat, through which output is to be taken, or across which this is output. We will also draw, I'll explain you the working. We will also draw the phase relationship and the polarity of current flowing. What we have to do is, we have to make a phase relationship, which is positive, which part is negative, and we'll be drawing a graphical relation. I'm naming this loop A, B, C, D. Okay, now you have to focus about the direction of induced current in A, B and C, D. Alright, see. How is this loop behaving right now? This loop is rotating like this. Okay, this AB part is coming out of the paper and the CD part is going inside the paper or the board. Motion is, for AB, motion is outwards. Magnetic field is from north to south. So current is in direction A to B. So right now current is flowing from A to B, that is in this way, A, B, C, D direction. That will give me that current is flowing like this and this. That means the current actually is flowing from R1 to R2, right? Current is flowing from R1 to R2, that is what? R1 is positive and R2 is negative. So instead of doing this, I'll write it like R1 here, R2 here. Right now R1 is positive and R2 is negative, right? One more thing. Initially our loop, I don't have any loop here. Let's say this is my loop. This is a current carrying loop, okay? Initially magnetic field is going like this and this is my magnetic field and the loop is also in same direction, the plane. There is zero number of lines which is passing through this loop. If the loop would have been a bit tilted, number of lines passing through loop is countable, but right now the magnetic lines of force are just passing along the face. Okay, so they are not crossing through this loop, they are passing along the loop. So there is no flux, or though there is no change in flux, that means induced EMF will be 0. So this graph has to start from 0. Okay, I am writing the value of current. The graph will be starting from 0, and with the rotation of loop there will be more and more number of lines passing through it. At a point when there is an angle of 90 degree, the maximum number of lines will be passing through it, that is flux is maximum, and so will be the value of induced EMF or induced current. It will be like this. With further movement of this loop, the value of flux keeps on decreasing. At a point the flux becomes 0 and hence induced current or voltage becomes 0. This is what happens initially. After one complete rotation, AB has moved to this part and DC has rotated to that part. So this is D now, this is A, this is C and this is B. Okay, we haven't changed the direction of rotation of loop. The loop is still rotating like that, but due to which, guys, now this thing is here. After one rotation, this part has reached here, and just a second, like this, and the other part which was CD, the CD has reached this part, right? Now further, we haven't changed the direction of rotation of loop, so CD is still coming outside the loop and AB is going inside the loop. This time, according to motion, field, current, motion, magnetic field and current, the current in this loop will be from D to C. So direction of flow of current is DCBA this time. That means the current is going from R2 to R1. I just changed the connections here because this wire, this part was here and it was connected to DC, so that is why when it has converted, it has rotated this much, so obviously this part would have circled down and would have reached here, right? Similarly, same thing happens with AB. So the point to notice is what I am doing here is I am showing you guys that this time current is flowing from R2 to R1 because the direction of current remains the same, which is in the this is clockwise direction, but due to this commutator arrangement, AB and CD have reversed their they have interchanged their positions, due to which current is now flowing from R2 to R1. So R2 becomes positive and R1 becomes negative, and the same thing, the magnitude of induced EMF will keep on increasing up to a point it is maximum and keeps on decreasing, and the next thing will happen in subsequent phases. So by knowing this phase difference, or not phase difference, sorry, the phase relationship between R1 and R2, and by looking at the graph you can clearly say that the output is of alternating in nature, right? And that is why this whole system, this whole construction is called the AC generator. So what are the three main points which you will write for AC generator? First of all, what you will say? Principle, construction and working. What is principle? AC generator works on the principle of electromagnetic induction, that is whensoever magnetic flux linked with the coil changes and induced EMF is produced in it. Then construction. Construction is point wise. Number 1, armature coil. Number 2, magnetic field. Number 3, commutator arrangement having slip rings R1 and R2. Number 4, carbon brushes. Number 5, load resistance RL across which output is obtained. Once construction is done, I have not given you the complete construction. What is left? After you say armature coil ABCD, you have to in one line also state the reason why it is there. To get in, see what I'll write. Number 1, armature coil ABCD hyphen or whatever, use any symbol, and then the use used to obtain change in flux through which induced EMF can be generated. Magnetic field, it is used to produce magnetic field due to which change in area, or like you have to state whatever the use of that product is in your diagram, right? Now, okay, construction is done, then the working. In working, first of all, you will explain what I was explaining you verbally, that how this thing changes, how you get to this point, and what produces the induced EMF. Whenever in your explanation you will say that this is induced EMF, then you will also give the expression for induced EMF. It's better if you give the complete derivation, but if you don't remember it that time, then you can also give only the statement. I would recommend give the complete derivation. After that, start with the explanation of the phase relation and the graphical relation between R1 and R2, and that will compensate your 5 marks question on AC generator.